went through the gateway into the chapel and went and tried the door. As I expected, it was locked. So the chapel sits on a hillside. It was a gentle slope, but I went into the cemetery on the uphill part and was just kind of looking at the chapel and scratching my head and saying, well, come on, Lord, this is ridiculous. You know, what can I do here? And so I was just praying and trying to get my head around, you know, leaving my family, leaving all our church and all the folks we love, and you know, the house that I was paying the bank for, and I had a complicated administrative job overseeing all of our missions finances, but the Lord's presence was there, and He was just saying, you know, this is what I'm asking you to do. And that morning, I was looking at the chapel, and I knew what God had said, and I was really trying to get my heart and my head around this. And that morning, it was clear sky, but over in the distance to the left, there was this dark cloud bank, like a storm front, you know, quite a distance. Yeah. But there wasn't a cloud in the sky, and I was just there praying and looking at the building and kind of talking out loud to the Lord. And you know, how do you know, stop your life in one place and come up somewhere else? And at one point, I was looking down towards the south, and there was one cloud. And as I looked at it, and it was like a spearhead. And as I watched it, it was blowing directly towards the chapel. And it was just getting closer and closer. And so I just kind of knew something was stirring inside. Again, as the Lord had shown me in the vision 3 years earlier, there was like this stirring in my spirit. And so I said, wow, Lord, this is really amazing, God. I can't handle this. How do I do this? And you know, then I'm praying again and kind of speculating in my mind. And then out of the corner of my eye, I catch a glimpse of color. So I look over and I see a rainbow starting to come up from the ground up across this dark purple cloud, this, you know, storm front. And I noticed it and I said, wow, Lord, there's going to be a rainbow. And He says, yes, there is. And Lord, you're really trying to tell me something here. And so again, I'm just trying to get my heart around this thing that God is asking me to do. And I look over from time to time, and the rainbow comes up to the very edge of the cloud, the storm front. And it gets brighter and brighter, and I'm looking and I'm praying, and then look back again, and it's brighter, and it's almost so bright it looks like a fluorescent light. And by this time, my tears are flowing, and I'm saying, God, you really mean this. You really, really want me to do this. And as He spoke to my spirit and said, yes, and at the next venture, I said, well, Lord, if this is really, really you, I mean, I'm going to put my life on the line, but I would just like to see if this is really you, through this total blue sky, would you make that rainbow fill all the way out? And as I said that, I kind of winced, you know, I thought, oh my goodness. And over the next minute or so, I watched, and the fingers of color kind of came up from the cloud, went up to the apex of the rainbow and started over the top. I looked down on the valley on the far side, and this whole rainbow filled out right before my eyes. It wasn't as brilliant because it didn't have that dark background, but unmistakably, and God says that this is what I'm asking you to do. And there's the sign, so do you need anything more? And I said, no. I'm yours. You say you're going to do this all, so He has done so much, Chris. It's just amazing.
Wow.
Just amazing.
That is. Well, the reason I asked you if you would share that is on my way into this morning, there was a rainbow that formed over the Gloucester Harbor. And it made me think of that story.
Yes.
And you know, I just want to recap some of what you've shared, because I think how you made the decision to pack up, leave New Orleans, and go to Wales is really important. First, you went on one mission trip. The Lord spoke to you, showed you this revival
yes.
spreading across Europe. Then the Lord honed it in a little bit more, and your next trip, he shows you a specific place.
Yes. Yeah, very.
And then in the next trip, the Lord hones it in even more, makes it very clear, and kind of brings you to that moment of decision. Will you do this?
No, was that on the second trip? It was the second trip.
Yeah. And so the third trip was more of an exploratory.
Well, that was the morning when the Lord gave me the key to the chapel that I explained to you earlier. And just,
yes. Why don't you tell us the story? So I just want to explain how the Lord works. He speaks to us in our hearts, then he speaks through physical things.
Yes,
I always tell people when you're listening to the Lord that you need to learn to listen to the land, because the Lord will speak to you through the world around us, and you've expressed that beautifully. And so tell us now how you obtain the next piece of the story, which is beautiful.
I think probably the biggest question to me at the end of that second visit, well, after that morning where the Lord confirmed with the rainbow that this was what he wanted for us, my biggest question to the Lord was, well, what about Gladys? Gladys is Latin American. She was coping with the New Orleans hot weather, but the cold and the rain and the lack of sunshine in Wales, she was having a hard time. I said, well, Lord, I'm willing. Absolutely, I'm willing, but you need to speak with Gladys. And you need to convince Gladys, not me. So that was at the end of my second trip. We came back, and as I said, just the succession of events. Every single day God spoke to me and just let me know this is real and this is where you're headed. And I knew it wasn't going to be, at first I thought, well, maybe I need to be back there before the centennial of the revival that was going to be in October of 2002, or, but I knew that it was going to take me a couple of years to train someone to do my job. And also I had, children still in the home. They were in high school. And that fall, as I really was getting more and more clear, I thought, well, I just need to go back and spend some time with the Lord and just pray in that chapel and just, try to get a better feel of the logistics of what it would mean to live there. I spoke with Gladys, obviously, by that time, and she was fine to let me go for a couple of weeks. She said, oh, that's your ministry, that's not my ministry. I'll stay home and, so I went over, took the train out. My friend Alex picked me up at the train and spent that first night at his place. Woke up the next morning. And even that very first morning, it was amazing. I was staying in a caravan, a small trailer that they had parked on the farm. And I woke up early in the morning, and I was reading the scriptures, having my devotional, and praying, and again, trying to, here I was, and now this is the place where I'm going to be living, and again, just trying to get a feel for what that would be like. And once again, almost challenging the Lord, saying, God, come on. This is so hard. Such a challenge, such a thrilling challenge, but, I had really embraced it, but my mind just didn't stop asking these questions. And I got up, there was, on the wall, there was a mirror. And on the bottom corner of the mirror is one of those red circles with a red diagonal bar that says no parking, no this, no that. And I went up to read what it said. It said, don't limit God. And the scripture reference, I looked it up, of course, and just one more time, God says, this is really exactly what you're supposed to be doing.